Okay, take two. I totally just filmed half of this video and then realized that my dishwasher was running the whole time. So we're gonna try again. This video is gonna be so spooky. It's gonna be so spooky. Hello, my beauties. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hi, my name's Janelle. And if you're not new, hi, my name's still Janelle. Thank you so much for being here. So today I am super excited because I have a thriller recommendations video for you guys. If you guys have been on my channel for a while, know that I try to stay away from recommendations videos, and it's only because I have really only been reading for a year, diligently reading for a year, and I just feel like I haven't read enough in order to recommend a book. But as far as thriller goes, I have read so many thrillers, and I do have 10 here that I'm going to be recommending to you guys. I am super excited, and what better season to talk about thrillers than the spooky season? That being said, let's go ahead and get into the thrillers. So for thriller number one, this is a thriller that I actually read probably about a year and a half to 2 years ago. And really had fun with it. And that is The Girls in the Garden by Lisa Jewell. So this one I had so much fun with. This, we follow Grace and Pip. Pip is the younger sister, and they live in this townhome where all of the townhomes are built in a circle, and all of their backyards kind of conjoin into this communal garden area. And it's just this really beautiful setting. And one night during the summer, they're having this huge neighborhood block party, and all the families are out and they're just having this great time. And then Pip discovers that her sister Grace has been murdered. And so now Pip herself, as a preteen, is now conducting an investigation to try and figure out what happened to her sister. And it is so good. It's so much fun. I really enjoyed Lisa Jewell's writing. There was not a moment in this where I was bored ever. It was just great, a great page turner, and I enjoyed every minute of it. So I would highly recommend this one. Next up, this one kind of gets some mixed reviews, I feel like, but I personally loved it, and that is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. So this one, we follow Sydney and Theo, and they live in this apartment condo thing. And one day they start discovering that new condos are kind of appearing out of nowhere, and they're not remembering them being built, they're just kind of popping up. And then their neighbors actually one day just move away. It's kind of suspicious because they never saw them move out, and another couple was in there almost instantaneously. And so now they are having to discover what is it that is happening to their neighborhood, essentially. This is a really great book. I love this. The ending of this book really had me oh shoot. It is so intense. It is so fun. I enjoyed every single minute of this book. Next up, we have a book called, wow, why did I just get so stuck? Okay, next up I have This Is Where It Ends by Marieke Ninjkamp. This one I read sometime last year, and I really enjoyed this one. This one is about a school shooting that goes down, and we follow 4 different students, and we get kind of each of their perspectives and kind of each of their responses to a school shooting and how it would affect them and what their kind of fight or flight response is. And honestly, it is great. We also get some kind of knowledge as to why the shooter does what they do, and also we kind of get to be aware of these things and how to kind of look out for it, which is what I loved most about this book. It just created such an awareness for stuff like this. Obviously, if that stuff triggers you, definitely do not read this. It is very intense, but I think it is also really important because it has just so many great themes throughout the whole thing. So yes, I really loved this one. Okay, next up I have a book that I read over the summer, and that is called The Lake by Natasha Preston. So this one, I'd never heard of this author, never read any of her books, nothing before this one. And I picked this one up because I was at a Walmart and there was nothing else. And I was like, you know what, whatever, I'll just try this one. I was in Tennessee, so I wasn't home to be with my bookshelves. And so I was like, whatever, I'll just get this one. And I was absolutely blown away by this book. I so enjoyed this. This essentially takes place at a summer camp. So we're following Esme, and Kayla. And they went to this camp when they were younger, like as campers, when they were like 8 years old, and something tragic went down. And then years later, they are back as camp counselors, and somebody remembers what happened and basically start to target them and just kind of torment them a little bit by playing pranks on them, and the pranks kind of get out of hand. And then we eventually learn their secret. This one is amazing. Really kept me on my toes the whole book. It never really had like a dull, slow moment, and I really enjoyed that. I thought Natasha Preston's writing was so smooth and just so like perfect for this story. You should read this one. I really had a blast, and I read this while being at a lake house, so it made it that times more scary. Okay, so now I'm kind of getting into some books that I have definitely talked about on my channel before, but stick around because I do have one at the very end that I've just recently read and have just recently loved, so make sure you stay tuned for that. The fifth book is The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. This one, I adore this book. This book is so good. The plot twist, it's a plot twist to me, okay? Happens at like page 56, and you're just kind of like, what the? Like, it changes the whole meaning of the story, and it just blew me away. I will never forget about this book. I just can't. But essentially, there are two characters, duh. I always forget their names, Jane and Eddie. So Eddie, his wife has just recently passed away, and he is like living, by himself. And Jane, I think she's moving into town. Yeah, so she just moved. This takes place in Birmingham, Alabama, by the way. So she just moved to Alabama, and she is like a broke dog walker, and she ends up walking her dog one day and meeting Eddie. And of course, one thing leads to another, and they are just, in love, and oh, life is great. But his previous wife is kind of coming back to haunt her a little bit. So she starts learning kind of some of his secrets, and has some suspicions that he was involved in his wife's murder. Yes, read this. It's so good. Oh my gosh. I will never forget this book. It's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, next up, I do not have to say much about this book, but it is Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Iyamide. So this one I read, I want to say the summer-ish, like early summer-ish. Loved this one. Everybody should read this. This is just creates such, it definitely has like racism and stuff in it, but it's to create an awareness for it. And I just thought it was so well done. So well done. So we're following Shameka and Devin, and they are the only two Black kids at this like white private academy. And everything is fine until all of a sudden Aces. Yeah, Aces. Okay. So Aces begins to kind of threaten them with like text messages and kind of just like embarrassing them and kind of sharing their secrets, and they're trying to figure out who is Aces. But the tagline is, how do you stop an unknown enemy? So they have no idea who they are, and they have no idea how to stop them. And it is just, wow, this is an amazing book. I absolutely love Shameka and Devin as characters. They are fabulous, and I just loved this book. Everybody should read this. Every single person should read this book. It is so good. Okay, so next up I have The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. So this one I also just recently read and really, really enjoyed this. I'm not a huge like Greek mythology person, but this one, the way that Greek mythology was incorporated into this book was just outstanding and so clever. You didn't have to understand Greek mythology in order to read it because they kind of, that scared me. They kind of explain it throughout the book. So you don't need to know anything about it. But yeah, so this is essentially a psychological thriller, and we have this professor, and his name is Edward Fosca, and so Mariana is convinced that her professor is a murderer. Like, hands down, she's like, he's a murderer, he just is. And so she is like on this mission to prove that he is a murderer, and I'm pretty sure it's her friend. Oh, it's her niece's friend that gets murdered, and she is like convinced that this guy did it, and so she's going on this whole rampage to try and prove that he did it. And we learn new secrets throughout this book about Mr. Edward Fosca and, you know, who the maidens are, and it's just an all-around great story. Like, I had so much fun with this. I will say the pacing in this book is a little bit like weird. Like, it starts off really strong and then towards not even the middle, a little bit before the middle, it does slope a little bit because it's trying to like give us some insight first and then it like goes back. So I am going to warn you about that, but I still really, really enjoyed this. I had so much fun with this, and even though I didn't know Greek mythology, I found it absolutely fascinating. So yes, this is a great one too. Okay, this one you guys already know, why do I not have the other one? Okay, first, I didn't grab it off my shelf, but first let's talk about Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This one is amazing. I do want to just touch on this one really, really quick because I didn't count it in this for some reason. I think it's because I can't see it. But yeah, this one is amazing. I can't remember our main character's name, but she gets this like job offer to watch this apartment for like a week or something, and they're gonna pay her like, I think like over $1,000, like just, or maybe it's thousands of dollars just to watch, like house sit for this apartment. But none of the other sitters have made it out. So it's like this haunting story and stuff goes down and it is just so, it is so good. I had so much fun with that one. So definitely read that one. So I did want to just say that really, really quick. And now let's get into the next one I was going to talk about. And that is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. You guys know, I just love Riley Sager. I mean, I just can't help myself. Okay, so in this story, we have Charlie, and Charlie's best friend has just been brutally murdered, duh. And because she's been murdered, she just wants to go home for the holidays. It's approaching Thanksgiving, and she is just like, I just want to go home. I don't really want to be at school right now. She is in college. And so most of her friends have already gone back home. And so the only ride that she has home is some stranger named Josh Baxter. And so she has a bad feeling about this, and she decides to get in the car anyways, because like you can't have this story unless she makes bad decisions. So she gets into the car and she is convinced that like he is the killer. And so she is like in a panic this whole ride home, and she is essentially having to fight for her life as she is just trying to make it home for the holidays because her best friend died. And it is just so intense the whole time. And on top of that, she has like this, Charlie really, really likes movies. She likes to dissect movies. And sometimes when stressful situations are happening, her brain will kind of shut down and she'll start to picture how the situation could go. And sometimes she doesn't know what's real and what's not. And so this whole car ride, things are happening and she can't decide if she is imagining these things or if they're really going down. And so it just like makes you like not know even who to trust, like what to think. Like it is chef's kiss, perfection. I love this. Okay, and our second to last book, we are almost done, and that is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. So this one I loved. This one is definitely more on the slasher thriller end, but essentially all of the final girls that we've seen in these classic horror movies, they are in this support group, obviously, to talk about their trauma. And somebody is now targeting the final girls because they don't want there to be a final girl. So it's great. It's so good. I don't even know what else to say about this. I loved this. I had such a blast reading this, but it definitely isn't for everybody. So definitely know what kind of reader you are because some people don't like this, but I loved it. Okay, and lastly, this is the book that I just recently read and loved, and that is The Shadows by Alex North. So this one, there's a lot that goes on in this book. Okay, so this is essentially about a guy named Paul Adams, and he comes back to his hometown because his mother is really ill, and it's just time for him to like spend some time with her because he thinks that she is like at her end. And he goes back home, which he's nervous to do because 25 years prior, there was a very brutal murder that happened. And he was friends, I guess, with the murderer. And I don't know why I just put quotations around murderer. So essentially, Paul was friends with the killer and the victim. And so he knew these kids. And one of the reasons that he moved away is because they were brutally murdered. And then Charlie Crabtree, the murderer, just vanished like into thin air after the kill. And there ends up being like a lot of copycat murders after this murder happens. And so it like just creates some huge turmoil in their town. Paul decides to leave town as soon as he's like able to move out. And 25 years later, he comes back to his hometown again to visit his mom. And another murder goes down while he's there. And all of these things start to resurface again. And the best part is that we have, I don't know how to describe it. I'm just gonna read this to kind of throw this in there, but it says they believed they could control their dreams. Instead, they created a nightmare. Basically, Charlie, the killer, and his victim and his friend kind of believed in lucid dreaming, that they could control their dreams. And this whole thing happens because they control their dream, but what they dreamt, the murder, is what actually happens in real life. So there's a little bit of like some lucid dreaming in there and like some just, it's a lot of stuff. I am not explaining this book very well and I'm not doing it justice at all. But it is so good. And this is another one that I could not put down. I read this in less than a day and it was absolutely amazing. I loved every single minute of it. So you should definitely read this one as well. Okay, so that is all of the books that I have for you guys today. I really, really hope you enjoyed this video and I hope that some of these books interest you and that you plan on reading them. And if you do plan on reading them or if you have read them, I would love to know in the comments down below because I just want to know, let's just talk. Like if you've read some of these, like let's just chat, you know? I'm gonna shut up now. Yeah, okay, so that is everything that I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.